Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article says jurisdictional conflict in the running of Delhi. Article 1 of the Indian Constitution speaks about name and territory of the Union. What is this territory of the Union? It includes territories of the state like the state of Maharashtra, Gujarat, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, so on and so forth. It also includes the Union territories as specified in the first schedule. Some of the examples include Delhi, Lakshadweep, Puducherry, Andaman and Nicobar. Then we have such other territories which can be acquired by the government in the near future. These are not part of India currently, but then these can be acquired by the government in the near future. So we have three important compartments as laid out under Article 1. When it comes to the state governments, there is clear-cut distribution of powers. They function independently under normal circumstances and with full autonomy. Our focus is not on the state governments, but when it comes to the union territories, they are under the direct control of the central government. Again, when it comes to the union territories, we can break them into two parts. What are these? One, having the legislature, the other is without the legislature. What are some of the examples with legislature? It includes the National Capital Region Delhi, it includes Puducherry, and then we have the recent update, and that is Jammu and Kashmir. Then there are other union territories which do not have the legislature. Andaman and Nicobar, Lakshadweep are some of the examples without legislature. This article here is speaking about the National Capital Region, and that is Delhi, which has the legislature elected by the people on the basis of direct elections. Then we also have the Lieutenant Governor who is appointed by the President. The article here discusses the conflict between the Lieutenant Governor and the Council of Ministers who have been elected by the people of Delhi. There was a case that was filed in the Supreme Court, and that is NCT of Delhi versus the Union of India in 2018. What was this case all about? It was a case between the elected government of Delhi and the Lieutenant Governor. As elected government, the government had every right to make policies, programs, schemes, and also provide subsidies to the people of Delhi. This is why they were elected, and this is why they were also voted to power. To bring all these policies into implementation, into practice, what you require is law. This is why the legislatures are elected, and the government of the day will have to pass the laws to bring all these policies into implementation. So the state government, that is the Council of Ministers, would be able to make laws with respect to the state list as well as the concurrent list, except under the public order, the police and land, which is the domain of the central government. But in some cases, whenever the Delhi government initiated few schemes and programs, this was obstructed by the Lieutenant Governor. That is because of the special provisions with respect to Delhi under the Article 239 AA. So what is this case all about? The case was a conflict between the Lieutenant Governor and the government of the day, and that is why they approached the Supreme Court of India. So the Supreme Court of India was asked a simple question: what is the power of the Lieutenant Governor? What are the executive roles and powers of the state government? Where should there be a restriction to the powers of the Lieutenant Governor? So the Supreme Court said that Delhi government enjoys the confidence of the people, so they should be able to legislate and also drive the policies which is for the good of the people. It also clarified the powers of the Lieutenant Governor and also the extent of executive powers of the state government. It firmly said that LG should not interfere in the daily affairs of the Council of Ministers. He has no other power to overrule the decisions of the state government. Why? Because he has to comply by the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. Any matter as given under Article 239 AA is not every matter. So you, the Lieutenant Governor, need not have to refer every single matter to the President of India. Why? This is not a general rule, but this is just an exception given under Article 239 AA of the Indian Constitution. And he was also asked to remind that this is a federal setup. Yes, there are some restrictions that are already imposed on the Union Territory of Delhi, but what what we also have to comply is that they are directly elected by the people of India. So this has to be kept in mind. The constitutional trust and morality, the constitutional federalism, and the constitutional balance between the federal powers will have to be maintained, is what the Supreme Court of India said in this particular case. It also reminded the Delhi government that it is a special category union territory and not a full-fledged state, and has to toe the line of the union government in some of the cases involving public order, police, and land. The judgment was passed, but did it solve the issue? The answer is simple no. Why? On the face of it, it looks like the Supreme Court did clarify all the issues, but it did not clarify what this urgent issue is all about. Let's say there is a conflict between the cabinet as well as the lieutenant governor, and there is a position that the lieutenant governor has taken in contradictory to what the cabinet ministers have taken. So what does he do? He refers this particular case or this particular legislation to the President of India. But in case he feels that this is an urgent matter, that he has to take a position, so he immediately takes a position even if it is contradictory to what the cabinet has taken. So that position is still not clarified by the Supreme Court of India, and ultimately this is again misused by the lieutenant governor, is what this article says according to the author. So according to the author, he takes the present example of Delhi riots. So what happened in Delhi riots is the example of appointment of the public prosecutor. Whenever the state is party to one of the criminal cases, what we have is the public prosecutor. This public prosecutor in all the cases will be appointed by the state government. Who is the state government here? Though Delhi is not a state but a union territory which has the legislature, ideally this should have been appointed by the Delhi government. But using this discretionary power of urgent clause, the lieutenant governor has appointed the prosecutor, which is a violation of the judgment given by NCT of Delhi versus the Union of India, says the author. So this saga points that there are fault lines that exist in the power equation between the lieutenant governor as well as the council of ministers. What is the way forward? The president is the constitutional office. His decision can be sought only when there is a constitutional issue, or else most of these issues should be sorted between the lieutenant governor as well as the council of ministers. Therefore, the lieutenant governor should not emerge as an adversary having hostile attitudes towards the council of ministers. Rather, he should be the facilitator, is what the author says. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about 4G services to be provided to the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. COVID-19 has hit us all very badly. The restrictions to travel, schools not opening, colleges not allowed to function, limitations on the number of people who can work in the office premises means that more people have fallen back on the internet for their basic services. Class have been shifted onto the online platforms. There are different tools that are used, like the Zoom app, or it can be the Cisco WebEx as well. Meetings of office have been conducted on Google Meet, as many are working from homes. Media also requires periodic updates. Why? Because journalists will have to constantly provide updates to their central hubs as well. Internet thus has become a fundamental aspect of our lives, and high-speed internet is not just a need but a necessity amidst the COVID-19 crisis. All of us are enjoying this high-speed internet. None of us have issues. In case you are listening to this video without any obstruction, without any buffering of the video, it means that we have the 4G internet. But the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir is suffering. Why is it suffering? Because they are not getting the access to the 4G internet, and that is the decision of the government of India. Why? Because Jammu and Kashmir is currently facing the threat of terrorist activities, and there could be a possible repercussions to the security of India. That is why the government of India has not provided the 4G internet services to the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. But what we have to focus on, two important points that we have to stress here. One, terrorist activities have continued despite these restrictions imposed by the government of India, and at the same time time, former Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor GC Murmu had recommended restoring internet in select areas of Jammu and Kashmir. Looking into these two important stressing points, the Supreme Court of India recently has also ordered the Government of India to provide 4G internet services in selected areas. So what has the central government done? The government has now agreed to restore internet in two districts on a trial basis. The Supreme Court might have asked the Government of India to provide 4G services to the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, and at the same time the government might have also said that they would be providing internet to two districts on a trial basis and eventually to the entire Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. But this has taken a lot of time. Why did the court limit its jurisdiction? That is because of what is called as subjective satisfaction on the first angle and due to the national security threat on the second angle. Let's try and understand what is this subjective satisfaction and what is this national security issue. When it comes to the subjective satisfaction, it traces its origin to the English public law, where parliamentary supremacy is the bedrock and not the judicial supremacy. What is this subjective satisfaction? Kindly remember, this is in specific reference to the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The executive are the field operators. They would know the threat perception, issues surrounding the region, terrain, and also infiltration by multiple terrorist organizations. So who are the best judge of the situation? It is the executive officers. So all the decisions made by the executive will be delivered to the judiciary. The judiciary will look into these papers, and because the executive know the whereabouts, the reality of the region, they comply by the rules of the executive. That is what is called as subjective satisfaction in case of Jammu and Kashmir. So what does the article say? The article says in English law, the legislature provides powers to the executive. This cannot be struck down. Why? Because they believe in parliamentary supremacy. But in India, we do not have the parliamentary supremacy. What we have is judiciary, which can also look into every move of the legislature, every move of the executive, and ultimately struck it down if it is violating certain fundamental rights. Yes, the executive might have a reality, but in the present scenario, fundamental rights of the people of Kashmir have been violated. So if that is the case, then the judiciary has the judicial power to review this particular decision and ultimately call the executive to enforce or bring in the 4G connectivity, is what the author says. The other issue the author brings in light is with respect to the national security. National security in most of the countries is the domain of the executive, because they would know the threat perception, they would understand the whereabouts of the other countries, state as well as the non-state actors, and they would also have multiple intelligence reports coming in. So they are the best judges when it comes to the national security. So this has also prevented the Supreme Court from entering the domain of the executive. But in the past, they have also ruled on complex issues like Aadhaar, money laundering, all in the name of national security. Even those issues were with respect to the national security. But when you decided cases like that, why is that the Supreme Court is not deciding now is another question put forward by the author. What is the way forward? What should be the role of the judiciary? What are the steps to be taken by the central government with respect to the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir? This has been explained by the author with reference to the Anuradha busing case. The Supreme Court has already said that in case there is an alternative strategy that can be taken up by the central government, which is least interfering and is not taking away the fundamental rights of that particular state, then such least interfering procedures can be developed and can be superseded in place of the present scenario. So what are the least interfering steps? The author brings into picture permitting the use of 4G on verified postpaid SIMs. So only those that have the verification, such people should be provided the 4G services. This is another alternative strategy. So the central government can employ it, is what the author suggests. She further goes on to say blocking and intercepting specific numbers, websites or applications. In case you go on to to sense that there are certain people in a particular region who are conducting these type of security related activities, intercept their calls, find out what exactly is happening and go and arrest them, and also make sure that such security issues are taken into picture. But instead what the government is doing is blocking 4G services for the entire union territory. This is bad, so what it suggests is an alternative strategy: issuing takedown orders of the content that also incite violence. Let's say there is a website, or let's say there is a blog, or any of the internet platforms which is inciting violence against the government or creating a social fabric condition which is breaking peace and tranquility. In such a scenario, you have every right to take down that particular website, or you can also bring the publisher into the law books. The author further goes on to say limiting restrictions to particular areas for shorter durations of time can also be implemented by the state going forward. As of now, these steps have not been implemented, but as an alternative strategy, these steps and these issues can be sorted out by the state, and this can be implemented instead of imposing a unilateral 4G ban on the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. What is the conclusion that we can draw? As of now, the Supreme Court has delivered judgment. It has looked into the perspective of the state government, but going forward, it has to look at the alternative perspective, and that is about the fundamental rights of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, is what this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. These three articles here are speaking about the contempt of court. We have discussed about the contempt of court in our yesterday's CNA. The first article here is in specific reference to the corruption. What is this all about? Let's say there is one of the corrupted judges who is in the judiciary. It might be in Supreme Court or it can be in the High Court. Let's say I have to voice my opinion and I have clear-cut evidence to show that particular judge is corrupted. So what is the procedure that I as a person will have to follow when it comes to the corruption and when it comes to the corrupted judge in the judiciary? So this is what this article all about, but we will not be taking up this article. Why? Because there is an update that is to be followed on August 25th. So once we have this update, we will have an elaborate discussion about this particular issue. The second issue here is taking into picture three important judgments. Do we have to remember the judgments? No. What we have to understand is concepts from this particular judgment. We have Article 19. Article 19 is about freedom of expression. So all of us would be able to speak, but if it is with respect to the Supreme Court, again, we would be able to make a fair criticism, but that should be in the interest of public. But there is a catch here. Article 19 is not absolute. There are reasonable restrictions as well. So this restriction that is present in Article 19 subclause 2 is what is present as contempt, says according to this judgment, CP Daptari versus the UP Gupta in 1971. So according to this judgment, the Supreme Court has held that existing law of criminal contempt is one such reasonable restriction as imposed under Article 19 subclause 2. Further, we have another judgment that is in S. Mughal versus Unknown in 1978. The Supreme Court held that judiciary cannot be immune from fair criticism. Fair criticism is 100% fine, but if it is bringing down the public confidence in the courts or seeks to influence the court, that is when contempt proceedings will be initiated. And in the case of indirect tax practitioners association versus the RK Jain, which was delivered by the Supreme Court in 2010, it further went on to say that truth is also a defense in the matters of criminal contempt. If it is bona fide and if it is made in the public interest, this can also become one of the argument for that particular person to escape criminal contempt, is what the Supreme Court said. In this particular article, there are a number of retired Supreme Court judges, senior apex court lawyers, former bureaucrats and service chiefs, authors and veteran journalists who are shocked by the proceedings of this particular case, is what we have to understand. But for the rest of the analysis, kindly look into our yesterday's CNA. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about Marthoman Church. The article as a whole is not important for us. This is not part of the civil service examination, but what is important is about this, which can be linked to GS paper 1 under culture. What is it? The Marthoman Church is one of the fine examples of Gothic architecture. What is this Gothic architecture? This is nothing but a European style of architecture which grew out of the Romanesque architecture in France in the 12th century. And one of the important aspects of this Gothic architecture is, as you see in the picture, you have the pointed arches, or what is also called as ogival arches, and that happens to be one of the important considerations under the Gothic architecture. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article, but the article as a whole is not important from civil service examination point of view. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about Saliva Direct, which we have discussed in our yesterday's CNA. But this article currently goes on to say that there are cases which are increasing in India, whether it is in north, whether it is in south, all states are no exception. Every single state have been facing the issues of COVID-19. But one of the major issues that we are all facing is with respect to the rapid antibody test. These rapid antibody tests have not been successful. In some of the cases, it is giving false narratives as well. So what the government of India should do is import this particular test. Why? Because it is inexpensive, because it is non-invasive, and it has also proved that it has been successful as well. So in case we are able to get this particular test done, what we will have is more number of cases which will be detected, and this will also reduce the need for the trained workers. So the article goes on to say, because there are number of cases which are increasing and it is also reaching the doors of the rural areas, massive number of people are getting impacted, having this test kit will become important, says this particular article. For the rest of the analysis, kindly look into our yesterday's CNA. Now let's look into the preliminary practice questions. With reference to the Lingaraj temple, which of the following statements is or correct? It is dedicated to Lord Shiva and is one of the oldest temples in Bhubaneswar. It is a classic example of Kalinga style of architecture. Which of them are correct? The answer to this is both. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference given under this article. So the temple is divided into 4 sections: Garbhagruha, which is the Sanctum Sanctorum; Yagnashala, the hall of the Yagnas; the Boja Mandap, the hall of the offering; and the Natyashala, which is the hall of the dance. Lingaraj temple was built by King Jajati Keshari, who belonged to Soma Vansh. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements. Hindustani music has influence from Afghan, Persian and Arab, but Carnatic is indigenous. Hindustani music has several subtypes. In Carnatic music, there is only one prescribed style of singing. Which of the above statements are correct? The answer to this is both. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference given under this article. This article further makes a mention about Mevati Gharana. So what is this Mevati Gharana? This is nothing but a particular music style. So the Gharana was founded by Ustad Wahid Khan as well as Ustad Gage Nazir Khan. Ustad Nageg Nazir Khan belonged to the kingdom of Jodhpur in the Mewat region, a part of Rajasthan. So because it is from Mewat region, that is why it is called as Mevati Gharana. So basically this is nothing but a particular music style. Pandit Jasraj was one of the most prominent exponent of Mevati Gharana. The Mevati Gayaki emphasizes the importance of Bhava as well as literature. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following statements is or correct with respect to Arun 3 hydropower project? It is an Indian-backed project in Nepal being built on Mahakali River. India's state-owned Satluj Jala Vidyut Nigam Power Development Company has been carrying out the construction work. Because it is asking for the correct statement, the answer to this is 2 only. Why? Because this is not built on Mahakali River, but instead it is built on Arun River, which is on the eastern side of Nepal. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference given under this article. Consider the following statements. Belarus is a landlocked country. It is surrounded by Romania to the south and Poland to the east. It was part of erstwhile Soviet Union. The correct code to this is 1 and 3 only. Why? Because it is not surrounded by Romania to the south and Poland to the east. Instead, what we have is Ukraine to the south and Poland to the west. Why have we picked this practice question? Because of the reference given under this article. Now let's look into the next practice question. The Chinese traveler Hun Chuang, who visited India, recorded the general conditions and culture of India at that time. In this context, which of the following statements are correct? The roads and river routes were completely immune from robbery. As regards punishment for offences, ordeals by fire, water, poison were the instruments for determining the innocent or guilt of a person. The tradesmen had to pay duties at ferries and barrier stations. Which of them are are correct. The answer to this is 2 and 3 only. Why? Because these roads were not immune from robbery. In fact, Huan Cheng was robbed couple of times as well. Now let's look into the mains practice question. Has jurisdictional conflict between Lieutenant Governor and Council of Ministers in National Capital Territory of Delhi hampered the governance? Critically evaluate. Restoration of internet services in Jammu and Kashmir is imperative in the light of COVID-19. Discuss. So please write all your answers on the comment section. Peer review, come up with constructive criticism. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.